Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Spot Mag podcast. I'm so excited to start off 2021 right with my guest, Tony Gonzales, founder and creator of Alere Mental Health, Emotional Health, and one of our writers since the very beginning at the Spot Mag, with contributing to our mindfulness column. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
I'm happy to be on, Crystal. Thank you.
Yes, so you've had so many.
And Happy New Year to
Yeah,
you and your
Happy New
family
Year to you
uh,
too.
and
Um,
all the watchers out there. Happy New Year to everyone.
I booked Tony before the end of the year because I thought as we go into 2021 and we're still in this pandemic, we still are dealing with so many things with unemployment, children's mental health and well-being, with not being in school, hybrid. Our lives have changed so much since when we started 2020. I thought it would be great to talk about some mindfulness tips and techniques we can get into to start the year right. So thank you for being a guest today.
Of course.
So first,
I
let's
always
start.
love talking about mindfulness.
Yes, and you're an expert on it, so it's really helpful for us and our audience. I want to first start with your new company you started. Can you tell us a little bit about your new center?
Yeah, Alaria Emotional Health is right now. It's a small private practice in Palm Beach County, Florida. Really, when I started it was kind of rooted in what Alaria actually means. It's a Latin word that's loosely translated to nourish or to help cause growth. And I think that is, my approach to being a clinician is really not to say I can affect change in any way in anyone's life. It's to hopefully contribute in some way. It's like if you think of a flower, it's not one particular thing that makes that flower grow. It's the water, it's the soil, it's the sunlight, it's the bugs that are in the garden, and hopefully, as a clinician, that my approach is I can be some element that helps the person sitting across from me or the family that I'm working with in some way to help contribute to their growth with my knowledge and experience. So that's the fundamental principle that the practice was built on. As a kind of a specialist in the area of mindfulness and post-traumatic stress disorder, I've really, built it on working particularly with people who have those struggles or areas of their life where they're really struggling, and helping kind of not necessarily make sense of traumatic experiences, but helping them confront them, because that can be a really scary part. And I think about what so many people have been through in this past year. I think we tend to think of a society as traumas as just life-threatening events. And what we don't particularly realize is the impact that what we've been through in many ways is a trauma for a lot of us. We were our conversation we had a few weeks ago about kind of so many people we see losing their homes or facing financial crises. These things can really be traumatic, and unless you have a space to kind of process those and try to make some sense of them and try to get some grounding in them, they become insidious. And so I guess all that being said, that's really the point of my practice is to really focus in on people that have those experiences and do my best to help them create the story that they want from it. So
I love what you're saying, because you're right. It doesn't have to be just one singular event. It can be a manifestation of
yeah,
everything you're going through, the ebbs and flows, and we're all kind of living with a shared trauma right now, with so many people that you care about. I went to visit a client today, to talk about listing their home, and they had on their Zoom. I just heard it in the background, and it was a funeral on Zoom in the background of one of their close friends. And I'm thinking, look at the trauma we're all going through. Like, here's his friend's funeral on a Zoom, while he's trying to get his stuff together so he has his own situation that he's dealing with. It's just, we're all
yeah,
dealing with so many different things right now.
yeah. It's incredibly difficult, and I think this dialectical balance that we're all like really striving and working so desperately hard to figure out is, and there's things of our lives that we really want to try to be grateful for, and we really want to try to embrace, which we'll get into talking about a minute ago, is just like, or a few minutes from now, is just the embracing change. And you talk about, we've been through so much change, unexpected change, anticipated change. But you know, that's, in my opinion, my professional opinion, that is one of the cores of what we call happiness, is our ability to kind of navigate change effectively. And so that's, you know, many of us are confronting that right now, is like, how do we adapt to all these changes that are forced upon us right now, whether it's a virus, or it's school, or it's work changes, or housing changes, or family changes, like really trying to see the path in front of us, and try not to step into many potholes.
Well, it's kind of like a lot of people have been kind of in a lull. You know, change is inspired by two things: crisis, or the outcome is so positive that you want to work towards that. And we've all been kind of forced to do something. There was no way to stay in the lull, which, you know, I always look at this time right now, because I'm trying to be so optimistic about things. Like, this could be a time for the great awakening of ideas and creativity. Like, I talked to a lady today who started her business in May, and she's doing a nonprofit. And I think that, you know, as a business magazine, I've seen so many people who had dreams on hold while they were working their 9 to 5, and now have really stepped out there and done that. And I think one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, as we reach out to these women who are starting their new careers, starting their new paths, and starting it in a pandemic, and starting to dealing with a lot of these traumas, what are some mindfulness tips? Because when or if things get back to normal, whatever that is, how do they cope with all that? Like, if you start your business, you're online, you're working online because you're not working in an office anymore, so you're balancing that. What are some tips that we can teach people that can help them be more mindful as they're continuing to work things simultaneously?
Right. So that's such a great question, because that, you know, maybe our society has really only kind of started talking about mindfulness as a thing, as you know, something we're all striving for in the last maybe 10 years, right? It's become a buzzword in the last 5 years or so, even though, you know, these are ancient practices.
Definitely.
And so the first thing I would say is kind of the point I was getting at a second ago, is embracing change. And what I mean is, like, mindfulness is not a task in a sense that we think, I'm gonna go meditate. I'm gonna go be mindful for the next 10 minutes. No, it's like, if you really want to incorporate mindfulness into your life, and it's reshaping it in a way, this is a way of living. Embracing mindfulness is saying that I can be mindful in every single aspect of my life. I can be mindful when I'm sitting down at my table to work on my business plan. I could be mindful when I'm having the conversation with my new customer, or my new marketing manager, my web designer, or whoever, you know, whatever business you may be starting, or trying to grow or rebuild after a terribly difficult year. It could be the mindfulness of sitting in the sadness or frustration of it's really struggling, and being present in those emotions. What mindfulness is focus with intention in the present moment. It's saying, I can be where I am right now with the reality exactly the way it is.
That's so hard.
Right? And it's super hard. And the reality is, it's super simple when you think about it, because it's just saying, be who you are, where you are right now.
Wow. But we've been, like I said, when I think that we have this great ability to now become a better society, I think that that's part of it, like being present, being in the moment, and being in that reality. And you wrote an article, I think the very first article you wrote in the magazine. So if people want to go to issues.com, you can pull up the Spot Mag, and it was about mindfulness. And I remember reading that thinking, well, how do you do it? Like, do I put it on my to-do list, set a timer, 5 a.m.? But
right.
I mean,
how do I put this in my iCalendar?
Yeah, but you're right. And I think every instant that you achieve that, you should celebrate, because it is difficult. You know, we're doing this podcast interview. I just had to silence my phone because I'm getting messages, or, you know, somebody wants something, or, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
have so many distractions, and how do you get to that clear mental space where you can just focus on what's in front of you? And what
Right.
you said, the reality of the moment that you're in right now. Is that how you said
Yes.
it? I love
Yeah.
that.
Like because when we
Trademark.
think about, yeah, I know, right? When we think about like a lot of what creates more suffering for us is that when we attach to shoulds, when
Yeah.
we attach to the way we think things should be, or what we wish they were,
Mm.
and you know, mindfulness isn't absent of strong emotion. Like we'll still be sad, you still might be angry if reality prompts that emotion, but like sometimes what we're trying to escape is experiencing those things, and mindfulness can be embracing all of that and then kind of embracing our full humanity. I mean, this is in many ways what the article I'm going to submit for the next issue is going to be about. It's like it's kind of taking some small steps to be more in the moment, more consistently in our lives, and recognizing where our vulnerabilities are and why those exist. Because the more we can not just reject them or label or judge ourselves as weak or incapable or not knowing or ignorant, or then saying, no, like I can embrace that part of me too. I can embrace the part of me that struggles, and try to come to a deeper understanding of that. Because maybe I do struggle with sitting in the moment with myself,
Mm.
and so I want to connect to a different reality, or I want to just stay busy all the time
So
because
you don't have to sit in that moment.
so I don't have to sit in that moment. And so it's just finding this balance. So, um, so that kind of framing mindfulness in that way, I would say to you, a few steps I would recommend is embracing change.
Mm.
That the power of flexibility is like if we try to say the way things should be, we're creating rigidity. And it's not saying there's not a way that I want it to be. It's more saying that if it's great, I'm going to try for that. But if it ends up being not that, I can pivot.
Mm.
I mean, I would argue that's the greatest talent or skill a good businesswoman or person has, is the ability to adjust and adapt on the fly to
Yeah.
different realities that present themselves, right? And I think we've all been through that this last year. I mean, I started the practice because I had
Of
to.
course. Yes. Yeah.
I,
The change pushed
had,
you to this growth. Yes.
yeah, and another project I have going on, which I hope we'll have a little bit of time to talk about,
Yes, definitely.
is that's been super challenging for me because I don't know anything about clothing and fashion, and I've had to, thankfully my business partner knows a lot of the logistics of that, but that I've had to embrace the change of at being at a time in my life where I don't know what I'm doing. And I kind of pride myself on a confidence and being comfortable and confident in some of the roles I play. And I've stepped into a role that's completely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so that I've had the practices myself of embracing that change and embracing that flexibility. The second tip I would say is mindfulness of practicing patience. I mean, we as a society talk about patience as a virtue, right? Which
Mhm.
is wonderful. However, really, what does that look like? Because we're always in a rush to get things done, and we want to hit that $1 million mark, or we want to get 500 customers, and these are great goals to have. But we also ignore that things take time.
Yes, they do.
And if the metaphor I like to use with this is like, I mean, at what point was the Grand Canyon the Grand Canyon? It just
Yeah.
took the river eons and eons and eons to get it. But we appreciate the beauty and the
We think it's
majesty
finished
of this,
result. Yeah.
but we don't consider the thousands and even millions of years that it took to get there. And we think about our businesses that way, or we think about our skill set and trying to become better professionals and better business people. Um, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, good, okay. It went silent for a second.
Oh.
So the more we can be mindful of appreciating the time and the patience of letting something grow.
Mm.
I like to use a lot of metaphors in the sense that if you plant a seed, I don't care how much you water it, how much
It's on its
you're
own
not
schedule.
gonna make that seed grow any faster than it needs to grow. And I think when we think about our businesses that way, we think about our families that way. We
Mhm.
think about our own professional growth, that when we can appreciate the patience of time and to not necessarily rush. It doesn't mean don't have motivation. It just means when things take time and when things are maybe going a little slower than you want, try to practice being okay with that and accepting that, because you'll be more satisfied and you'll have more clarity around the growth of our business, or the roles you play in your family, or being willing to just take the small steps, and that's okay.
Well, and I think for me personally, because I'm a person that's an instant gratification, like a lot of people are in
Mm-hmm.
certain areas, I can kind of maneuver to make that work. But in business, I can't control that. Like,
Right.
there's no cheating. There's no, quick way. I've been doing this magazine. We're going on third year of doing a magazine.
That's amazing.
I started
Congratulations.
as a
Yeah.
passion project just because I wanted to see more women in business and get inspired, because I love inspirational things. You love metaphors, which I'm like, yes, sign me up. Like the Grand Canyon one, I'm writing it down. I'm using it. Because
Right.
I think we always look at someone else and say, well, we should be doing more. I should be
Right.
here. Or, then you feel like that regret, like, why didn't I do
Mm-hmm.
this way? And I think the mindfulness is so key, especially, I know I do my business plan December, January. I used to do it earlier, but this year I
Mm-hmm.
was like, who knows?
Yeah. Who
But
knows?
I'm
Like,
doing it a
things are
little bit.
changing.
Yeah, I'm doing it a little bit later. But part of the reason I've also been a little bit more lenient is because, things are changing and I'm trying to not compare myself. Not that,
Mm-hmm.
well, I should be here or I should be doing that, or having regret for decisions I've made. So
Mm-hmm.
I love everything you're talking about. Let's venture on to your other new business you started this year.
Oh
And
yeah.
I can't believe I didn't wear my
I'm
hoodie.
not surprised you're not rocking it. Like, I'm
But
disappointed. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna post a picture, my
Yeah.
picture,
Yeah. Please do.
because it is so comfortable. I won't tell you how many days in a row I may have worn it, but it was quite.
But they're
The
super
material
washable,
is
but that's
amazing. I
okay.
mean,
Right.
it
Right.
was washed, of course,
Nah,
but
no, I'm just.
it's so comfortable and it's soft. And I mean, everyone looks at it like, where'd you get that? Like, it is so cute. And my daughter needs to order one because she thought it was for her, and I had to rudely tell her
Please
she
do.
she didn't
Yeah.
buy one. She don't have any money. So
Yeah.
tell everyone about your amazing fashion line.
Yeah, so it's and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it,
Of
because
course.
it actually, there's a bridge between what we were just talking about and the reason why we started the line, and thankful, to my business partner Jennifer Rodriguez, who's been so essential in getting it off the ground, and who's my chief promoter and my thought partner in designs and everything.
Your
But so
video
it's called.
ads have been amazing, like high
Oh,
caliber. You guys, I'm going to post the link in here so you can see it, and you can see his Facebook and his Instagram page. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to interrupt anymore.
no, 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 you're good, you're good. So it's called Psyche Signature, which, and kind of breaking down the name, Psyche is kind of, we think about that as mind, but actually when you get into the Latin root of it, it actually means soul. And
Ooh.
it's kind of our mind, body, spirit, kind of what encompasses us as a whole. And then signature, and you get into the definition of that, is kind of a unique, undeniable identifier. So kind of this combination of how we identify.
Mm-hmm.
And so the challenge we faced when we came up with the idea was that this is kind of born out of years and years of years. And I've been in the mental health field for 17 years doing different things. And, one of the things we often encounter is the reason why people struggle, not necessarily, being because of the things that have happened to them, because of their biology, all these things that create mental health struggles. But part of the reason why they stay stuck is because they carry so much shame, misunderstanding, guilt, embarrassment about what their experiences are. Maybe because they don't have a context to put it in, maybe because they don't know what it means, they don't know how to recognize it, et cetera. So, part of the intention was to say, how do we help break the stigma? This has been, again, one of the key words of our society, like break the stigma, break the stigma, break the stigma. But there's really no conversation of how do you
Yes.
do that, right? Well, how? Like, if, I've said this in another interview, but like, it's like so much of what we do is in private. You go to therapy, that's wonderful. It's my main living, but it's done in private. You might go to your doctor, done in private. You might go to a meeting, it's anonymous. And so it's how do we kind of open up the greater conversation as a society, within communities, within families, And we kind of came down to why can't we wear it?
Yeah.
Why can't we wear something that maybe is a representation of something we go through, or a representation, a symbolic representation of an experience our loved one might have? And that is, so that is the main kind of intention behind it, is to give people, hopefully give people an outlet to feel more empowered, whether it's just generally advocacy for mental health, or maybe even there's a specific struggle that they go through. And in the line, we have designs for depression, for postpartum depression, for anxiety, for obsessive compulsive struggles, for, attention deficit, for, we have about trauma, like I think we have 14 different specific, there's different mental health diagnoses, or kind of areas of it. And what we really like to more call them is experiences, because there's such a range. I mean, yes, things have real diagnoses, but I tend to move away from the term illness, because that I think furthers the stigma.
It kind of has a negative connotation, because it's kind of like,
and not that it's intended that way.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it might be something you go through lifelong, but it also, to call it, necessarily speak of it in just that language, kind of, again, that doesn't tell me what it's like for you. We have a hashtag campaign, is ask me what it's like. And the point is, if you wear it, if you see somebody wearing the design, a Psyche Signature design, they're inviting you to ask them what that experience is like. What is it like for you to live with, deal with depression? Or what is it like for you to deal with, a period of anxiety in your life? And the more we can relate on that level, the more we can understand other people, it actually brings down the stigma. It actually breaks it and smashes it, because now I'm humanizing. Yeah. I'm more humanizing what our mental health is, and actually how we strengthen our mental health. I don't think about these things in terms of, well, you're weak because you're struggling. No, let's understand why you're struggling, because there's a strength in that. There's a strength in being able to look into that experience with more open eyes and more, a greater sense of support. And my hope in all this is that wearing a hoodie, wearing a t-shirt, and hopefully some of the other line products we have coming out and coming this year, is that it empowers people to share their experience. It empowers people to be more open in sharing their story, whether it's with us, which we love, and we're inviting people as they buy their shirts and hoodies to share their story with us, so we can put it, in the mask, so we can put it on our Instagram page, on our Facebook page, and share it with more open. Or maybe it's even just within your family. Because maybe you buy that shirt and your friends don't know you deal with it. You'd be surprised how many, just even in, it's been moving for me to hear some of the stories that people tell when they buy a shirt. Like that they're, people didn't even know. Like people I knew that bought a shirt that I didn't know. And people reacting. My business, Jennifer, was telling me about a reaction she was wearing the bipolar design. And how she was telling somebody, and they just broke down into tears, because she was saying like that's so, fulfilling for her to see that there's other people that understood and had compassion for what she went through. And that's the point behind the line of sharing the experience. And I just want to note one more thing. I want to thank we're working on developing partnerships, because it's not just a fashion line. Our goal is not just to sell t-shirts. It's really to break that stigma and hopefully connect people with resources. Definitely. to further their wellness. And so each month we're going to be partnering with a different agency. And so in January, Psyche Signature is partnering with NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We're partnering primarily with the Palm Beach County branch, but they're a national agency, and they have offices and services in just about every county in the country. And I don't know exactly their reach, but I know they're nationwide. And I just, they're a great resource for anybody that might be struggling or has a loved one who might be, dealing with a mental health issue, and experience to begin, getting well, or begin their understanding, whether it's individual counseling or a doctor or a support group or anything along those lines. That's, we want to they're doing great work in the community, and we're very fortunate to be partnering with them.
That was what I was going to go to next. With I knew you were
Yeah,
doing collaborative efforts every month, so you're giving some proceeds to these organizations as well as cross
yeah,
promoting. I know. I think about my life. I'm 40. I won't say in
I
the
know.
low 40s. And the stigma of mental health or having to get help in general has been something that has really evolved over the years. Like
Mhm.
15 years ago, I would have never told anybody I was doing therapy. Or even probably 10 years ago, I probably would have been
Right,
embarrassed, like you said, an illness or something's wrong with me. Um,
right,
and, I think that is, this year in my professional business, I had one of my best years ever. And I think a lot of it had to do with I took time to reflect. I've been reading your articles. They're the most read articles. If I go to my analytics, mindfulness is number one.
good enough. I did not know that.
Yes,
That's
it's the
actually really
most
cool to hear. Yeah.
because like you say, when I'm talking to a business professional and women, I talk to them so many times. I just had 3 calls today, and they're feeling like they're not doing enough, or they're not good enough, or
Right,
they're not worthy of
right,
these things that are coming to them. And I think a lot of it is, like you said, we have traumas that happen in our life. How do we deal with them? And
mhm,
I think it's really important that people talk about mental health. I think I'm so happy it's kind of in the know right now. People talk about it.
right,
People talk about experiences, especially people of color, because we've never been a culture or group who have promoted that. Like people, your family would think something's wrong with you if you need to go talk to a
right,
therapist. You know,
right,
I I mean, I've had people say that's white people problem.
right. Well,
We're just keeping it honest.
well,
Like in different
yeah.
cultures, that's just kind of what the perception is. Or you must not be busy enough, or because why in the world
Hmm.
do you have time for that? But therapy has been the best thing I've done this year. Well, in 2020.
That well, yeah. Well, I'm super proud of you for one for doing that. It speaks to the truth of how important it is to be mindful of what we're actually going through, and
Yes.
validate that and embrace that, and push away and challenge the judgments
Mm.
that whether they're coming externally or internally, because that's another core of mindfulness, is the absence of judgment, of being able to observe without kind of labeling or without judging as good or bad or right or wrong. It's just, can I observe what is?
Ooh.
And if I'm struggling and I know I don't feel right, I'm unsettled, and talking to somebody and getting some different perspective helps. Why does it matter what anybody else thinks about that?
And I think for
And I think, to your point, just that there's like, I agree with you 100% about our communities, particularly Black and Brown communities. The stigma is a bit more challenging. And a lot of reasons for that, which is probably a whole nother conversation I could get into.
another topic, yeah.
Yeah, another topic for another podcast. But and I've been so encouraged to see so much, especially not only in my practice, but within Psyche Signature, of so many people supporting from all walks of life.
Yes.
And that's because I think it's giving an avenue for people to embrace this part of them. That's one of the fundamental or goal, intentions of the line. The designs are kind of loosely based upon the periodic table as a reference to, these are all part of us. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
like oxygen is part of it, or oxygen is not an element. Hydrogen is part of us. Helium is part of us. Nitrogen is part of us. We all have, maybe we don't meet the criteria for major depression, but we all go through periods of time where I don't want to get out of bed, or I'm down, or I'm struggling. You know what I mean? Like, and so when we can relate to, I know what it's like in those periods of my life. What is it like for you that you may have dealt with this for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years of your life? I want to understand more about to be curious about another human being's experience requires us first to be curious about our own. And for you to seek that out, and kudos to you for being open about that, because hopefully maybe the listeners and the watchers, maybe you can say, I might benefit from that too in some way if I'm going through it.
Well, and that's one of the reasons, I started talking about it more because,
Mhm.
I feel like for women, especially, I have a couple businesses, they like, oh, you're doing everything. And then they start feeling guilty about what they're not doing. Cause
Right.
I'm guilty of that too sometimes. I'm like, no, 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 it's not easy. I'm struggling a lot. And
Right.
some days I
Right.
wear my anxiety hoodie 3 days in a row. But
Hmm.
I think it's important that we talk about people because we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to it doesn't have to look any way. Your success can look whatever way it looks for you. And I think
Hmm.
that's important to be comfortable in that. Because there are days where, and you do have external people trying to tell you, well, don't put that out there. What if people think this? Well, reality is reality. I mean,
Well, it is like me, whether I talk about it or not, it's
yeah,
real. Like, so, so
we
why not? Right.
exactly, like it's not going to change if I don't say anything, and it's not going to change, it's still going to be how I feel. So,
Right.
um, I love this. I want to have you on monthly, so we'll figure out how to do that
Okay.
because
We'll figure that out.
we could talk for like 2.5 hours.
Oh, we should do first Monday mindfulness and do the
Oh,
first Monday of every month.
we'll do it. Let's do it. We'll put it on the
All right.
calendar. And I'm
Cool.
and I will post a picture with my hoodie in this so they can see your designs, and I'll put the link because I was impressed. I got it in the mail and I was like, okay. Because we've known each other what, 25 years?
What you think I was gonna do? No,
I thought you had
I'll
some.
be honest though. That was a painstaking process. Me and Jennifer, in the middle of the pandemic, were going through probably 60 different samples that we had ordered from different companies until we came up with the right one that was going to give the feel for what we wanted. Because that was, I mean, really the intention beyond the designs is we want people to feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Well, it's got the
And
energy.
so,
I'm all about energy and vibes. And
yeah,
when I opened it, I was like, I slipped it right on. I was
there
like,
you
I'm
go.
not
Awesome.
watching it
No,
first. I
I
probably
love it.
should have,
I love it.
Well, it's
So,
great. It's always great chatting with you. I'm
yeah.
so thankful for you guys don't know. Like I said, Tony's been writing for the magazine since the inception. He is the only male writer for this women's business magazine, and he has been a hit with the readers, hit with all the writers. I mean, just bringing that idea of mindfulness, and we'll talk about a different podcast, the dialectical behavior therapy, and just something you touched on earlier, but just looking at things and it can be one way and the other way. Like
Hmm.
I think
That's right.
that's a great topic for our mindfulness Monday next month,
Yep.
not next
Next month.
week.
So, I would encourage anybody watching, please visit www.psychesignature, Psyche signature.com. All the different brands up there, all the different designs are up there. All of our sales in January, our total will be given 5% of our gross sales to NAMI Palm Beach County, which we're very excited about. So the more sales we get, the more we can contribute to helping in that way. So super excited. We appreciate any support in that way. And just the listeners, we really support, thank you for being and letting me be with you today.
Of course. It's an honor to have you on the show. Like I said, I was more nervous about you being on the show than anybody, and I've known you the longest. It's kind of crazy to look at someone you've known 20 years like, oh, we're grown.
We're grown, like white hairs grown, like pulling white hairs out of my
That's why you got to cover
eyebrows
your hair.
grown.
That way nobody
Yeah,
knows.
I'm embracing my white. I'm embracing my grays.
There you go. Well, we'll get it on the calendar for the Mindfulness Mondays. First Monday of the month. I love that idea.
Yep,
Thank you guys for all
love it.
tuning
All
in,
right,
and you'll have the links in the bio below. Make sure you check out his site. I got I believe it's the natural color hoodie.
natural. Yes,
Yeah, it's my favorite. I mean, I'm sure there's other good stuff, but that's my favorite.
yeah.
So just start there, check it out. Thank you guys.